nothing but the heredity. Heredity is also known as inheritance. See, heredity means the thing which is carried over next generation. It may be the information, it may be the disease, it may be the special features, it may be the different characteristics. All those things are carried out from one generation to next generations. That is only known as heredity or the inheritance. Okay, so we have seen that reproductive process give rise to new individuals that are similar but subtly different. See, when we are studying about the reproduction, at that time we have learned that when the fusion of female and male gametes is going to form the zygote. See, but this zygote is not the replica of their parents, not the replica of parents. Why it is not so means here the genetic variation, we can say the characteristics from the mother as well as from the father, they get combined and form a new individual. That's why they belongs to the species, same species. They belong to same species but they are not replica or identical to their parents. We have discussed how some amount of variation is produced even during asexual reproduction. See, it is about the two parents involvement. Here in plants too, where the asexual reproduction is taking place, there also we have seen the variation, and the number of successful variation are maximized by the process of sexual reproduction. See, as compared to asexual reproduction, sexual reproduction having a large amount of variation. If we observe a field of sugar cane, we find very little variation among the individual plants, but in a number of animals, including human beings, which reproduce sexually, quite distinct variations are visible among different individuals. In this chapter, we shall be studying the mechanism by which variations are created and inherited. See, here, as I said, here in between humans, female and male, the interaction, sexual interaction is going to take place. That is nothing but the sexual reproduction. In sexual reproduction, see, here in sexual reproduction, what is going to happen means, in sexual reproduction, the fusion of female and male gametes are going to give the zygote by the process of fertilization. See here, largest amount, we can say large amount of variation we are going to observe, as we can't see this in the same amount of variation in the sugar canes. Why means, if we visited a field which is filled with the sugar cane, then they are alike. Maximum of them, they are the alike. Why means, they have been produced from the asexual reproduction. But here when we are observing individual, we can say crores of peoples, they are not alike but they are belongs to the same species. What is the reason behind this means, here the variation is going to occur. That is, we can say, mandatory for the evolution. So, in this chapter, we are going to learn all those things thoroughly. Accumulation of variation during reproduction. Inheritance from the previous generation provides both a common basic body design and a subtle changes in it for the next generation. Say, when we are discussing about this, assume that they are the grandparents. They are the grandparents and they having a disease like blood pressure. Okay, in this case what is going to happen, it is one of the example that they have the blood pressure. Okay, so this may carry on to their next generation. This may carry out to their next generation too. Okay, here if it is happening in their grandparents, then they are the parents. Now coming here, if one of the boy is suffer from this hyper blood pressure too, then possibility is there in the next generation one of the girl as well as one of the boy may suffer from this disease too. The similar way, we can say the height. Height also is inherited character. See, here it is going to pass on to next generation. Now, think about what would happen when this new generation in its turns reproduces. See, as I said, these are our grandparents, then these are the parents, then their offspring. And next, the legacy or the inheritance is going to carried out. See, the second generation will have differences that they inherit from the first generation. Exact, whatever the grandparents have the characteristics feature, it is not exact in next generation. Okay, next, in next generation, if from this 50% of the characters is transmitted to the next generation, then to next generation maybe their characters, their grandparents character will be only about 25%. Okay, here see, this is one of the ancestors, we can say grandparents. So here they have completely navy blue colored. Okay, when their generation, next generation is going to come, see slight variation here and here occur in their next generation. Whereas if we go to the third generation, then this is from second generation, this is from second generation, one more is added here, even it is two. Okay, if we go to this generation, next generation, then completely the organism is variated and it may be a replica for this one. Sometimes this may also happen exact replica. See here, no one is exact as their grandparents, no one. There are slight variations in next generations. Okay, so viewers, hope you enjoying this understanding. See here, creation of diversity over succeeding generation. The original organism at the top will give rise to, say, two individuals. Assume that this is the first generation, this is grandparent generation, and this is the parent generation. Okay, similar in body design but with subtle differences. See, no doubt their body design is same, but they having some different characteristics features. Okay, each of them in turn will give rise to individual in the next generation. Each of the four individuals in the bottom row will be different from each other. While some of these differences will be unique, others will be inherited from their respective parents, who were different from each other. You can observe the changes, slight changes, but it is easily comparable that they have been variated from their original origins. Okay, okay, viewers. Next, figure 8.8, as we have gone through, would represent the situation if single individual reproduces as happens in asexual reproduction. If one bacterium divides and then the resultant two bacteria divide again, the four individual bacteria generated would be very similar. There would be only very minor differences between them, generated due to small inaccuracies in DNA copying. However, if sexual reproduction is involved, even greater diversity will be generated, as we will see when we discuss the rules of inheritance. Do all these variations in a species have equal chances of surviving in the environment in which they find themselves? Obviously not. Depending on the nature of variation, different individuals would have different kinds of advantages. Bacteria that can withstand heat will survive better in a heat wave. As we have discussed earlier, selection of variants by environmental factor forms the basics of for evolutionary processes, as we will discuss in later section. See here, assume that this is the example for the bacteria. Here what is going to happen if one bacterium divides and then the resultant two bacteria divide again. Okay, after that they are getting the 4, but here the variations, whatever the variations are taking place, that is due to DNA copying. The copying or the replication of that DNA is responsible for these slight variations. See, it is in asexual reproduction. If it is in a sexual reproduction, then the variation is much more. Okay, so this only we are going to learn the rules of variations or inheritance. See, do all these variations in a species have equal chances of surviving in the environment in which they find themselves? See, one answer for this is obviously not. Why means it is depending on nature of variation. First thing. Secondly, different individuals have different kind of advantages. See, next, assume that one example, if a bacteria is surviving in a high heat, okay, then the bacteria which have resistance against the heat, that only going to grow better in the heat, as we have discussed earlier. Selection of variants environment. See, we can say here the theory, we can say fittest, survival of the fittest, survival of the fittest. See how we are telling survival of the fittest. If this bacteria is surviving in an extreme heat, then only it is going to capable. If one more bacteria is there but it is incapable of heat, then it won't survive. Then this theory is going to be proved correct. We can say by environmental factors form the basis for evolutionary processes. Okay. So next, let us discuss about the heredity. As I said you, heredity or inheritance. The most obvious outcome of the reproductive process still remains the generation of individuals of similar design. Assume that a cat baby will be kitten itself. A dog's baby, yes, a dog's baby will, yes, hmm, okay, pups. Next, if the human, see, what would be for humans? So that is nothing but the kids, child. Okay, the similar design should be there. Means whenever we are watching a cat, then it should resemble to a cat, not to the dog. If I am observing the human, means it should resemble to human, not the cat or dog. So this is what the individual similar design, we can say it is the blueprint which is already existed when the zygote has been formed. The rules of heredity determine the process by which traits and characteristics are reliably inherited. Let us take a closer look at these rules. See, first thing, inherited traits. Traits, we can say characters or the features, exact word if I said, means what exactly do we mean by similarities and differences? See, we need to be go through first similarities and differences. What is meant by similarities and differences? See, if I said about the human, means it should have two eyes, one nose, two ears, two arms, forearms, two hind arms. Okay, see, again that it should resemble to a human beings. It should not resemble to dog or cat. These are what the similarities. What about the differences? If the eyes of that particular person resemble to octopus, then that is what difference. No doubt it is the human being, but the eyes of that particular or human is resembling to other organism. That is one of the difference. Okay, we know that a child bears all the basic features of a human being. If we are discussing about the human being, then the features of that baby should be like human itself. However, it does not look exactly like its parents, and human population show a great variation, deal of a variation. See, as I said, if the biological mother and father is there, then too the zygote or the baby doesn't the replica of their parents. Okay, but they belong to same species. Okay, see here, as per the rules, first rule, rules for the inheritance of traits. Here, Mendel's contribution. See here, Gregor Johann Mendel. Gregor Johann Mendel was the father of genetics. Father of genetics. Okay, so he is the one of the greatest person who discovered about the gene. He studied about the genes. After that, in the genetics, he have created the revolution with the help of rules whichever he have generated from his observation. See, the rules for inheritance of such trait in human beings are related to the fact that both the father and the mother contribute practically equal amounts of genetic material to the child. This means that each trait can be influenced by both paternal and maternal DNA. Thus, for each trait, there will be two versions in each child. What will then what will then the trait seen in the child be? Mendel worked out the main rules of such inheritance and It is interesting to look at some of his experiments from more than a centuries ago. See, here you can go through this. Here the earlobe is not connected. Okay, here the earlobe is not connected to the chicks. Okay, but here the earlobe is completely connected to the chicks. This is, we can say, one of the variation. Here it is free and here it is attached. See, free and attached earlobes. The lowest part of the ear, called the earlobe, is closely attached to the side of the head in some of us and not in others. Free and attached earlobes are two variants found in human population. See, no doubt, as we are discussing about the similarities and differences, it is one of the difference out of human population that some of us having a free earlobe and some of us having a attached earlobes. This is one of the variation, or we can say differences. Say, let us discuss about Gregor Johann Mendel. Gregor Johann Mendel, he was born in the year 1822 and he died in the year 1884. See, Mendel was educated in a monastery and went on to study science and mathematics at the University of Vienna. Failure in the examinations for a teaching certificate did not suppress his zeal for scientific quest. He went back to his monastery and started growing peas. Many others had studied the inheritance of traits in peas and other organisms earlier, but Mendel blended his knowledge of science and mathematics and was the first one to keep count of individuals exhibiting a particular trait in each generation. This helped him to arrive at the law of inheritance. See, Gregor Johann, he just combined biology plus mathematics. See how it is, how he combined. See, he have given like this biology plus mathematics like genetics. Okay, in which way I am telling this? See, he have given the some of the rules, laws of inheritance in the form of ratios. In the form of ratios in different generations. In different generations. See, here let us discuss about that. Mendel used a number of contrasting visible characters of garden peas: round, wrinkled seeds, tall, short tall, short plants, white, violet flowers, and so on. Basically, he have studied about the seven characteristics in peas, and given different explanation, different conclusions for that. He took pea plants with different characteristics. A tall plant and a short plant produced progeny by crossing them, and calculated the percentage of tall or short progeny. In this first place, there were no halfway characteristics in this first generation or F1 progeny. No medium height plants. See, all plants were tall. You can go through this. when the crossing between tall and short parents, then their next generation. See, it is F1 with F1 generation. After that, they have given the F2 generation, but here you can observe no intermediate or no short heighted plants is visible. All tall offsprings. All plants were all plants were tall. This meant that only one of the parental trait was seen, not some mixture of the two. So the next question was, were the tall plants in the F1 generation exactly the same as the tall plants of the parent generation? Maybe it is happening. So the question arises or question strikes in Mendel's mind. So next, Mendelian experiments test this by getting both the parental plants and these F1 tall plants to reproduce by self-pollination. See, next what he did from the F1 generation plant, he did the self pollination, not the cross pollination. The progeny of the parental plants are, of course, all tall. However, the second generation or F2 progeny of the F1 tall plants are not all the tall. See here, the difference arise in the F2 generation, whereas in F1 generation all are tall. But when we move to when we move to say when we have taken from this side, both of them were tall. But here what they did in the F2 generation, all of them are not the tall. Okay. Instead, one quarter of them are short. This indicates that the both the tallness and shortness traits were inherited in the F1 plants, but only the trait was expressed. See, means in this generation both have been inherited, both the characteristics from the tall as well as short, both of them is inherited, but only the expression of tall tree has been taken place. See, this led Mendel to propose that two copies of factors, now called as genes, controlling traits are present in sexually reproducing organism. These two may be identical or may be different, depending on the percentage. A pattern of inheritance can be worked out with these assumptions as seen in figure 8.3. As we have gone through this one, so here what we are going to get in this explanation, both capital T and capital T small t are tall plants, while only small t is a short plant. Okay. In other words, a single copy of capital T is enough to make the plant tall, while both copies have to be small t for the plant to be short. Traits like capital T are called dominant traits, while those that behave like small t are called recessive trait. Work out which trait would be considered dominant and which one recessive in next. So next, we need to discuss what happens if when pea plants showing two different characteristics rather than just one are bred with each other. See here, characteristics. What do the progeny of a tall plant with round seed and short plant with wrinkled seed look like? They are all tall and have round seed. Tallness and round seeds are thus dominant traits. But that happen when these F1 progeny are used to generate F2 progeny by self pollination. A Mendelian experiment will find that some F2 progeny are tall plants with round seeds and some were short plants with wrinkled seeds. However, there would also be some F2 progeny that showed new combinations. Some of them would be tall but have wrinkled seed, while other would be short but have round seed. You can see as to have new combination of traits are formed in F2 offspring when factors controlling for seed shape, seed color recombine to form zygote leading to form F2 offspring. Thus the tall or short trait and the round seed or wrinkle seed trait are independently inherited. So here if we go through this, when we are doing the cross pollination the dominant is going to appear, but when we are doing self pollination in between F1 generation, at that time variation is going to happen. Okay, the similar way, round round is the dominant character, whereas wrinkle is a recessive character. If we go to the round seeds with the tall plant, then also sometime this may combine with the wrinkle seed. Tall plants may have wrinkle seeds. This is the one criteria, this is the second criteria. Next possibility is also there. Here what they are telling, short means small t. Short plant may have round seeds and short plants may have wrinkle seeds. So these are the four possibility among them. Variations is definitely going to happen when multiple characters are going to select. So hope so viewers you have enjoyed and understood my explanation. So make sure to like, share and subscribe to my YouTube channel and don't forget to hit the bell icon. So if you have any doubts regarding my explanation, you can comment me in the comment section. Till that, I'm going to meet you in the next video. So, Allah Hafiz, दुआ में याद रखना.